Let's get to the point. You have no control over your own life. You think you do, but deep down you know it. Every decision you make is conditioned by fear, by others' expectations, by the need to fit in. And the worst part is that you've convinced yourself this is normal, that this mediocrity disguised as stability is what you're supposed to accept. But Nietzsche made it clear. The greatest enemy of mankind is not suffering, not fatality, not destiny. It is its own weakness. Look at yourself. Throughout your life, how many times have you felt the need to act, yet you stopped yourself? How many opportunities have you missed because something inside you, that cowardly whisper, told you it was too risky? The reality is that you weren't honest with yourself. You justified your inaction with excuses, with rationalizations that sounded logical, but deep down they were just a reflection of your own lack of willpower. Nietzsche called it dishonesty with oneself, and it is the worst of cancers. Because a person who does not face their own truth condemns themselves to a life of dependence, mediocrity, and submission. Here comes the uncomfortable part. You have been programmed to be weak. Since childhood, you were taught that doubting is prudent, that fearing is normal, that settling is right. And you bought it. They sold you the idea that life is a straight and safe path, when in reality, it is a jungle in which only those who have the courage to face their own monsters survive. Nietzsche knew this, and that's why he despised compassion. Not because he was cruel, but because he understood that many times compassion is just an excuse to perpetuate weakness. How many times have you seen someone fail, and instead of encouraging them to rise, they were told it's okay, it's not their fault, the world is unfair? Is that help? That is a prison disguised as comfort. Misunderstood compassion is a form of manipulation, a way to keep people in a perpetual state of dependence. Because when someone accepts their weakness as something inevitable, they become slaves to those who feed them that narrative. And that's exactly what happens in our society. We have been taught to fear pain, to avoid conflict, to reject any form of struggle. But Nietzsche made it clear. Suffering is not the problem. The problem is rejecting it. Life does not owe you comfort. Life challenges you, puts obstacles in your way, demands that you become stronger than you are today. And if you're not willing to accept that challenge, then you deserve the mediocrity you have. Most people live in a bubble of false security, avoiding anything that makes them feel vulnerable. They deceive themselves thinking they are fine, when in reality they are trapped in an invisible cage. Nietzsche described it as the herd mentality, the human tendency to follow the norm, to avoid standing out, to blend into the crowd for fear of difference. Because being different implies responsibility, and responsibility is heavy. It's much easier to be one of many, to be part of the group, to be invisible. But there is a price, and that price is your own soul. Weakness is comfortable. It allows you to evade responsibility for your own existence. It gives you excuses. I can't do this because society is unjust. I can't change because that's just who I am. I can't take risks because I'm scared. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Nietzsche would tell you to open your eyes. There is no greater lie than the one you tell yourself. And the biggest of all is the idea that you are condemned to be who you are today. You are not. But changing requires something most people don't have: willpower. And here is the key. Willpower is not just wanting something. Everyone wants things. Everyone dreams of a better life, success, freedom. But wanting means nothing without action. Nietzsche talked about the will to power, the ability to take what you want with absolute determination, to impose your will on reality instead of being dragged by it. That's what separates those who leave a mark from those who are forgotten. The weak wait, the strong act. Where are you? Weakness is not a physical defect. It's a mental state. It's the inability to be brutally honest with yourself, to look in the mirror and admit that you are not who you should be. It's the tendency to give in to immediate pleasure instead of building something that truly matters. It's the cowardice of avoiding the pain necessary to evolve. But there is a way out. Nietzsche didn't just identify the problem, he also gave the solution: personal improvement. But not in the cheap and superficial sense of modern self-help. It's not enough to think positively, to manifest what you want. It's about becoming someone capable of carrying their own weight, aligning your actions with your desires, imposing discipline where there was once laziness. If there's one thing you need to learn from Nietzsche, it's this: suffering is not the enemy. Criticism is not the enemy. Struggle is not the enemy. The true enemy is self-deception, weakness disguised as comfort. The only way to be free is to take absolute control of your own will, without excuses, without delays. The question is, do you have the courage to do it? Or will you keep lying to yourself, hoping things will change while you drown in the same mediocrity as always? Life does not wait. Either you take the reins or you'll be dragged. Nietzsche understood this. Do you? But there's more. Something that is rarely said out loud because it makes people uncomfortable. Weakness not only condemns you to a life of mediocrity, but it's also contagious. It spreads like a plague, infiltrating the minds of those around you. And here comes the hardest part. Every time you give in to your own fragility, you are contributing to the weakness of the world. You are part of the problem. Think about it. Society is designed to reward submission, to shape you into a more docile, more manageable version. Since you were young, they taught you to avoid conflict, to seek approval, to fear rejection. And this programming has borne fruit. You struggle to say no, you struggle to do what you really want, because inside you there's a voice that keeps repeating, "Don't do it, it's not safe, you're not ready." That voice is not yours. It's the echo of a system that prefers to see you kneeling rather than standing. Nietzsche understood this better than anyone. It was not just about developing a strong will for oneself, but about not allowing the weakness of others to drag you down. Because fragility is seductive. It offers you excuses, gives you reasons not to act. But willpower, true willpower, is forged in the clash with adversity. It is in the struggle where you define yourself. And what does most people do? They give up before starting. They freeze with fear of making mistakes, as if making a mistake were the end of the world. But here's the brutal truth. Mistakes are irrelevant. They are just a process. The only real failure is inaction. Nietzsche despised those who spent their lives waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment does not exist. If you wait, you lose. Period. Look around you. Most people aren't alive in the true sense of the word. They exist, but they don't live. They are bodies occupied by anesthetized minds, chained by routine, by the fear of change, by the comfort of the known. Nietzsche called them the last men, those who have renounced greatness because they prefer a life without surprises. And the saddest part is that they think they have won. They feel satisfied in their cage, like an animal that has forgotten what freedom is. But here is where you must decide, because you have only two options. Either you are part of the herd, or you rise above it. There is no middle ground. And yes, the path of willpower is difficult. It means making decisions that make you uncomfortable. It means accepting that you will be criticized, rejected, judged. But tell me, what's the alternative? Spend the rest of your life dragging the same fears, the same doubts, the same regrets. Nietzsche gave us a solution. The Übermensch, the superman, the evolution of the human being who frees themselves from the morality of the herd and takes total control of their destiny. They don't depend on imposed values. They don't seek approval. They don't kneel before mediocrity. They act without fear, without mercy toward their former weak version. The Superman is not someone superior to others. They are someone superior to who they were yesterday. They are someone who doesn't accept excuses from themselves, who disciplines themselves until their will becomes an unstoppable force. Because that's the key. Discipline. Willpower is not given, it is trained. It is strengthened with every decision made against fear, with every act of courage, with every renunciation of comfort. And here comes the final question. Are you willing to do what's necessary? Or would you rather keep living in the comfortable lie that has been sold to you? Life is testing you, every day, every minute, and most fail because they don't even realize they're in a fight. Are you going to be one of them? Or will you stand up and take what's yours? Willpower is power. Weakness is death in life. And only you decide which side you are on. And here is where everything becomes clear. You've spent your life believing the problem was external, that it was the circumstances, society, luck, destiny. But no. The true enemy has been inside you all this time, every time you doubted yourself, every time you settled for less, every time you allowed the voice of weakness to drown out your instinct for greatness. Because yes, deep inside you, there is something fighting to get out. Something that knows you are made for more. That every day that passes without you taking action is a lost day. That every excuse you give yourself is a betrayal of what you could be. And if you're still here, listening to this, it's because a part of you already knows it. Here's the truth. No one is going to save you. No one will push you toward your maximum potential. No one is going to force you to get up every time you fall. No one will take the reins for you. It is your responsibility. And that's the most terrifying thing, but also the most liberating. Because when you accept this, everything changes. Guilt disappears. Complaints become irrelevant. You no longer look for excuses, only solutions. And you stop looking outward because you understand that everything starts and ends with you. So tell me, are you going to keep postponing your life? Are you going to keep letting weakness decide for you? Or are you going to do what few dare to? There's no more time, no more future opportunities. There is only now, and now is in your hands. If you've made it this far, prove it. Write in the comments, "My will is unbreakable," because only those who are truly ready to change will do so. And if this has made you think, if you feel this is what you needed to hear, then subscribe. Because here we don't come to sugarcoat reality. We come to face it. See you in the next one.